Woman in a red shirt. 2 years ago this time. That day, I was in a downtown area of Tokyo to buy a present for my girlfriend's birthday coming up next week. I had a day off from my part-time job that day, so I had been wandering around looking for a present since early afternoon. I saw an accessory store across the intersection that I thought she might like. I was waiting at the traffic light at the Scramble intersection. Suddenly, I saw a young woman in a red shirt at the far right of the people also waiting at the light on the opposite sidewalk. At that moment, I felt a shiver run down my spine. I did not look directly at her, just at the very edge of my field of vision. Or rather, I felt something that I could not see directly. I was not psychic at all, but I instinctively felt "oh my God," and as soon as the light turned green, I turned diagonally to the left. Was it my imagination? I asked myself if it was my imagination, but it was so eerie that I decided to get away from this place as quickly as possible. I was still curious to see what they looked like. I was still thinking about what she looked like, so I looked to the right side for a moment. At the same time, I felt a hair-raising sensation as if the blood in my body was flowing backwards, and I had goosebumps. The woman in the red shirt was right in front of me. She had semi-long hair, a plaid miniskirt and loose socks. Her face and clothes made it clear that she was a high school girl, but I instinctively knew at first glance that she was not of this world because of her lifeless expression. The shirt I had thought was red was the color of a large amount of blood that had flowed from a cut right down the middle of her neck. As the girl passed by me, I heard a low, muffled female voice echoing directly into my head with a ringing in my ears that resembled the buzzing of countless insect wings. I could not recognize the voice as clear words, but it was like a thought-like feeling of suffering, resentment, anger, and various other emotions swirling around me, echoing directly into my brain. I found myself standing rigidly in the middle of the intersection, apparently stopped, and was brought to my senses by a car horn. What the was that? I looked around, but could not see the JK in the red shirt, as if I had daydreamed or had a vision. But my whole body was drenched in sweat. I had already kind of lost the energy to look for a gift and decided to go home today. I was feeling tired and weighed down by that one moment. On my way home, I wondered what that girl was all about. I thought about it a lot. Is she a suicidal wanderer? Or, from the wound on her neck, was she the daughter of someone who was murdered? I felt sad and felt a little bit of a heart attack. I felt sadness in my heart, and out of character, I joined my hands together in my heart for a moment. Perhaps that was a bad idea. Around 4 p.m., as I opened the door to my apartment, exhausted, someone kicked me in the back with all my might, and I stumbled and fell into the doorway with both hands on the floor. When I turned around, no one was there. I immediately looked outside in the common hallway, but no one was there. Did I bring him home? I'm not psychic by nature, so I had no indication that I felt anything since we passed each other at the intersection. Did I simply stumble? I forced myself to tell myself, I'm not sure. As soon as I entered, my eyes fell on a corner of the room. The photo of the 2 shots of me with her that had been displayed on the desk was torn to pieces and scattered all over the desk. I didn't bring her in, did she just leave? I called her cell phone, either because I had a bug up my sleeve or I had a bad feeling about something. She doesn't answer. I tell myself again that she's probably at her part-time job now, so she's on the train or something and can't pick up right now. My heart is racing. I call her again. She doesn't answer. No matter how many times I rang, she never picked up. I couldn't stay still, so I decided to go to her part-time job to check if she was okay. I was so glad to hear from her, but when I checked the incoming call screen, I saw that it was a blocked call. Hello? There is no voice. Instead, I could only hear a kind of noise over the speaker, as if the signal was bad. Hello? Hello? I felt as if something was being said on the other end, but the noise was so bad I couldn't hear it. I couldn't get anywhere, so I hung up my cell phone. The moment I hung up, I noticed something strange. What's with the ringtone? Normally, I set my phone to block incoming blocked calls. But even when I set my phone to block incoming calls, I would still hear a brief, piercing tone. But even though it was a blocked call, the ringtone continued to ring for a few seconds before I answered. I felt cold sweat dripping down my back and was thinking in my head, something's wrong, when my phone rang again. It was a blocked number. I froze for a while, staring at the screen to see if I should answer, but then I decided to answer it. Who is it? The noise was as bad as ever, but I concentrated my nerves on the receiver to hear the voice on the other end.
Watashi.
I was so scared that I threw the phone away. It was a woman's voice. Not knowing how to organize and think about what to do, the core of my head became hot and dizzy and I almost collapsed. Still, I couldn't shake off the fear that something bad might happen to her, so I picked up my cell phone once more and ran out of the apartment. When I arrived at the station, an announcement was made that the train was not running due to a personal injury accident at Station 00. It was the station where she was transferring to go to her part-time job. I called her cell phone several times on the way to the station, but there was no answer. I was half in tears, hoping from the bottom of my heart that she was okay and that I had mistaken her for someone else. At that moment, my cell phone rang again. I gulped and picked up the phone. The noise of the receiver's mouth and the hustle and bustle of the world around me did not reach my ears, only the voice echoed in my head.
Why not me?
My mind went blank. I'm being backhanded by an unidentifiable thing, or am I? I quickly said, "What have you done with her? What have you done with her?" I shouted. But the phone was already dead. I was so upset that I pulled up the history screen to see if I could call the guy from the incoming call history and complain to him again. There was not a single incoming call from a blocked number. I thought calmly that I can't call a blocked number, but there should be an incoming call history. However, my cell phone had not received any calls from anyone since last night. A daydream? For a moment, I almost convinced myself that everything that had happened today was just a fantasy that I had imagined on my own. Just as I was about to force myself to accept this, my cell phone rang again. Her name on the incoming screen. I'm like, wow, I've done it. Or that's right, I've done it. I answered the phone with a sense of relief, feeling that her call would cancel out the events of the day, which were so far removed from reality. However, a man's voice came out of the phone, a voice I did not recognize. "Oh, police department. Are you an acquaintance of Emmy, her name?" "Yes, I am. She was in an accident at 00 station and is being taken to the hospital. The police told me that she had fallen from the station platform, and although her life was not in danger, she had a head injury and was in a coma. She and I were at the same university, so I told her to call there and find out the contact information for her parents' house, and I hung up the phone after asking for the hospital to which she was transported. I'm so angry. It was definitely that guy. It may sound like a cliché, but I really thought at the time that he was trying to steal me away by killing my girlfriend out of jealousy. I was very concerned about her condition, but I thought I had to see him again first to make things clear, so for some reason I headed back to the intersection in the middle of the day. It was getting a little dark, but there were even more people waiting at the light than during the day, and yet there he was, in the same red shirt, at the same spot. I was beyond scared and inexplicable, and I was so full of anger at that moment that I was crowding the place and yelling at the woman. On the way there, a group of 3 hosts or touts who were standing next to him grabbed me by the chest because they thought I had gotten involved with them, but they either saw the strange appearance of the red shirt or felt weirded out by my yelling in an empty space, probably the latter, and before I knew it they were gone. The red-shirted guy was expressionless and only looked forward during that time, But just as I came to my senses and felt a bit distressed as I recalled in my mind the time I had joined hands with him during the day, he disappeared right in front of my eyes. Then I got another call from a blocked number. It was silent. I felt that everything I wanted to say had been said, and I didn't know what to say either, so I was silent. I can't explain it well, but it was kind of an awkward atmosphere, as if we were talking on the phone about our breakups, or both of us were waiting for each other's next words. Maybe I thought so because I didn't get a bad vibe from the other party. I guess I was alone and understood on my own. I interpreted it as, "I'm sorry," and unintentionally uttered "I'm sorry." The call went dead. Later that day, I went to visit her in the hospital. She was in better health than I had expected, and although she received more than a dozen stitches in the back of her head, the rest was only minor bruising. Although she fell to the bottom of the platform, there was still time before the train arrived, and the station staff made an emergency call and the worst of the disaster was averted. After that, she was pulled up by people who were on the platform and taken to the hospital. According to the testimonies of several witnesses, she was seen staggering down the platform alone, and since she had been working all night every day to catch up on her practice exams, she did not remember the details of the moment of her fall. Rather, she was gleefully and enthusiastically telling me as she recalled fragments of her memory, such as how it was refreshing to see the angle of looking up from below at the dismay of the people anxiously calling out to her from the platform. "I'm glad you're okay, whatever it is. I'm so embarrassed to think that I might have been mistaken for a suicide or something," she said. "By the way, did you notice anything else?" "Nothing in particular." I didn't want to worry her in particular, so I didn't talk about the incident at all. If possible, I wanted to treat it as my own imagination or fantasy. No, I just wanted to tell myself that. I was thinking, oh, by the way, there was a girl who looked strange. What? When the businessmen and men were trying to help me from the top of the platform, she was the only one who didn't care about me and seemed super ignorant. So, what was she wearing? Suddenly, my cell phone rang with a ping. I took out my cell phone and checked it, apologizing to her that I should turn off my cell phone in the hospital. It was a blocked number, so the ringing stopped immediately, and the call was still in my history. So, it's all over now. So, was that the girl's outfit? I looked up when she said that. She was looking at me with a grin on her face, her cell phone to her ear and her shirt stained red from the blood she had spilled from her neck.
Like this.
I passed out on the spot.
It's good to see you again.
This concludes this story. Thank you for listening to the end.